Hey, it's 5:35. It's called a meeting, for July 15th. In order, just make sure it was July. So we'll start with roll call
All right, Mike Baker.
here.
Oh, Janice Baker. Here. Doug Mingenhoff.
Here.
Michaela Hammerson. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Natasha Atkinson here. Jonna Steele.
Here.
Kathy Dewhurst Carreri.
Present.
All righty.
Good job.
You
All right.
did a good job with my name. Yeah,
Carreri.
Carreri,
Yes,
yes, yeah.
that's why I asked last time.
You did a great
Natasha,
job.
can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. I went to a private school, and we always close with amen.
Yeah,
Okay, onto the consent agenda for the minutes of June 17th, July 8th. Special, the meeting minutes and then the, June 24th, the then maintenance report. So everybody have a chance to review those items. Have you guys ever see something that's on the consent calendar? And it's something, because we just, one motion, we approve everything that's on the consent calendar, so if there's just anything that you want to see, you don't need to have other people be interested, if you want it just pulled off the consent calendar. That's fine, and then we can talk about it and then vote on it, so.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
for motion on the consent agenda.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Sherry, financial report.
Has everybody had a chance to take a look at the financial packet? Do any of you have any questions? I used the same format as we started out in May with, so,
So where are we in relation to our budget?
in relation to the budget, we're still, meeting the budget for June.
Okay.
Yeah, we ended meeting our budget, so, I can say that the STIP payment that came in for this first quarter was less than even what was anticipated, so I'm hoping that's not gonna be a.
Is there a follow through for that? And see what the difference was.
Jennifer Boardman, I'm sure will probably be on,
She's on.
yeah, she's on, so I don't, she can maybe speak to it, but it did come in less than even, we did build the new budget, and we lowered the STIP plan, amount for some conversations that we had with Drew and Jennifer. Probably, I don't know, a month ago, and, but it still came in slightly less than that, so I'm not sure if that's gonna be a trend.
Do you know general, just approximately what the difference was?
It was about, I'd say, maybe 50,000.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question that might be really basic? But with the liabilities and equity, aren't liabilities a deduction and equities a negative and equities a positive?
Yeah, so.
So I don't understand because it seems like they were added on that, and so that's, if you could explain, it's pretty
Are
basic.
you talking about the balance sheet?
Yeah,
Okay, so what it is you have your total assets, that's the 789, 686.
right,
And if you minus the liabilities, the equities is what you have left, the 748, 598.
oh, okay, I see what you're saying
Yeah.
there, but so there wasn't a line, but that was, thank you.
Yes.
I had to
That's how
actually
that
use
totals
the computer for some of the acronyms too. and sit
Oh.
there.
and I have acronyms for you guys too.
Oh, okay, cause yeah, there was just like,
Does any of the new board members, because you guys are just now getting to see some of these, is there anything that you don't understand or would like to see? were spelled out. That's what I did start doing the monthly financial statement, just kind of the overview of what each
Yeah.
report out,
Yeah.
outlines. So if there's something that you don't understand or that you want me to dive a little deeper into, I can do that.
I think it's just gonna be, a learning curve too. Yeah, the only one that really got me, that I had to finally text Michaela, was the one that it's the company that's doing it for you, that's also titled. That handles, isn't it that they're handling?
Dial-A-Ride?
Yes, yeah, for the dollar, that, what are they called, 3 letters?
Yeah.
And it was like, I was looking that up, I think it was
Yeah.
restless leg
Thank you.
syndrome,
I was like, oh, no.
RLS.
Oh,
RLS.
Yeah,
Oh.
and that's all I could get was restless,
That's
and it was like, I know that's not what it is.
Robbie L. Sarles.
Yeah, that's
is her
it.
name, yes.
No, on the profit and loss statement. Shows our net income minus, hard to read without my reading glasses.
So
Right.
there's several
There's
different versions of
lots
the
of profit.
P and L.
Yes.
So there's our current quarter, which would be April through June. There's a current fiscal year, so from July 1 through June 30th. And then there's one that's from the very beginning, that when we started the district until current.
I'm looking at July 2023 through June 2024.
That's the quarter, or no, that's
That's
the.
the-
yeah,
that's the
year.
fiscal year.
Fiscal year.
And that
Yeah.
does show where we went negative, and a lot of that was due to the purchase of
Of the
vehicles.
vehicles. Mhm.
Okay, so are we actually negative?
So where we really are, if you take a look at the one that just says June 30th,
30th.
that's from the very beginning. Any money that we've received and any money that's gone out for the life of the district, so we are not in the negative,
$750,000.
We're just negative for that year.
we're negative for the year.
Yeah, because of the $1.3 million
Yeah, I was looking at
purchase
that.
and,
Yep.
and bus replacement.
Okay,
On the quarter,
Mhm.
operations, $127,000, material and services, is that gas? Like, is that like 90% gas? Trying to figure out what 127.
Which one?
Um,
On the
the
operation?
22 operation,
Okay.
yeah.
I can take a look and dive into that. It's,
Okay.
I mean, a lot of it is gonna be fuel for
Okay.
sure. Let's see.
Just because it's quite a bit, like higher than any other, but I'm assuming that's. Because it's steel and oil changes, fun things that are boring. and stupid.
So, yeah, so 53,000, a little over, almost 54,000 of that is preventative maintenance. of
Okay.
Vehicles, and then the other almost 50,000 is fuel.
Yeah, okay,
Mhm.
okay, that's
So a
right.
good chunk of it. And then the other big part of it is just the transit contracts, which is Reed Sport, DRTF and Sunrise.
Got it.
So those are the three biggest categories.
Sunrise is a grant.
Sunrise is.
No, I know what Sunrise is, I'm sorry. What do you guys provide to Sunrise? Clarification
We provide some of their funding,
for transportation?
yes,
Stiff funding
their stiff funding. So, mhm.
for a client home service.
And what is that amount per quarter?
It's $3,750 a quarter.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And then Sunrise is 3,000, and then Reed Sport is the only one that,
DRTF is 3,000. That you mean?
DRTF.
DRTF is 3,000.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the financial report?
I move we approve the financial report.
For a second,
Second,
been moved and seconded, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 6, public comment. Do we have anybody online or Jim? I'm just looking for hands real quick. Not seeing any. Okay, not seeing any public comments, on to item number 7.1, under old business, the operation of the Simi Seat project.
We have Randy Biles, Operations Manager, online.
Hello, everybody. So, early spring, you tasked us to look at getting a semi-seat and the trash can installed over at the Roseburg Marketplace bus stop. I did initially get one quote. I did get two more contractors that agreed to give quotes, but only one responded. And it came in significantly less than the first. Looking at $900 for just the pad and sign removal, or $1,000 for the whole project. And that would be permits, the road permits, the pad, the removal of the sign, and installation of the apparatus. Which,
Say those numbers one more time. I'm sorry, Randy.
I'm sorry, say again?
Can you say the beginning numbers one more time?
Yeah, so we're looking at $900 for the pad and removal of the sign only, or $1,000 for the whole project, which would be
Was
also.
it that $100 different? Okay, I
Yeah.
thought I misheard
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
Put the seat in for an extra $100.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem right. I missed something. Okay.
And the other quote was for the entire project was $2,300, so significantly more than the first quote.
Okay.
And my recommendation is, if we have the money in the budget and the board still wants us to move forward with this, is to go with bid quote number one.
This is the bus stop across from Walmart. Up in the place there.
Thank you.
So, and another thing to consider in the future, I mean, this price, I was really surprised of, it was a really good quote there. He would be interested in more future work. We do have 6 more, we have 7 bus stops in the Flagstaff, I'm sorry, I'm not in Arizona anymore. In the Roseburg city limits that do not have any bus stop signage. And if we
Yes.
want to, or any type of bus stop seats or anything, and if we want to look at in the future to look at installing semi seats at those stop locations, we can consider that too. We already have the actual seats and signs, so.
Oh,
Those are nifty little.
yeah, they
seats.
are nifty little seats. And having signage is great.
Yes,
So I assume we're looking for a motion on that.
just because it is something that,
Wasn't in the budget.
right, it wasn't something we originally had planned for, and we're pretty tight, so. That's
Yes.
part of, I think what ODOT is looking is that we're going to have a full discussion and that the board is gonna approve these type of, expenses for a while.
All right.
And fiscally, are we able to do that $1,000?
We should be okay with $1,000. Yeah.
Okay,
And he recommended number one,
Yes.
so he said,
that's just the one that's really heavily used and.
Yeah.
The rate overturns grocery carts and sits on them
yeah.
I know, I think we ought to put 2 in.
I
side by
have
side.
to go, I go by there and pick up those
Go for
carts
it.
all the time.
I know, our drivers go in the morning and pick them up too.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Ugh.
That's nice.
and. Is there a motion?
All motion. Motion to approve bid quote number one.
The second,
And okay, so for under discussion, so big quote number one, are you saying that's the $900 or the $1,000?
$1,000.
Oh, you.
that's the one he recommended, he said.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay, motion is seconded for the $1,000 for the full bus seat. Yeah,
Second.
yeah, no, I know. I just sit here, motion and a second. Any other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Is there a timeline on that, Randy?
Oh, I will contact the gentleman tomorrow and we'll get it going.
Yes.
It's typically information. for you
I
guys.
say they're all the time.
Okay, on to item 8.1, the new action plan adoption.
Does it matter that this says 7.2 and that says 7.1?
No,
Okay. Thank you.
and the requested action is, yeah, you could tell I was tired by the time I got to these.
So I'm excited.
Yeah, now we're good. Okay. So, yes, we move ahead. So the new action plan. Jennifer Boardman went ahead and went through the final RLS report and updated pieces of the action plan to incorporate the pieces of the report that were not already in the action plan that we had adopted. So there's a number of changes in there. And that's it. But it's up for your discussion.
Probably my own to do. Reading
How
to do.
how much different is the, I just didn't get a chance, I read everything on the weekend, but the news stuff, I just didn't have a chance to address how much different.
Not much. I'll
Okay.
get to that when we get to that.
Okay, thank you.
But right now you want to be on this.
Okay, that's on, yeah.
It should be under 8.1. No.
There it is. And so this is pretty much what we have gotten before.
Yes, the action plan is everything that went out on Tuesday.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can you tell me what this means on number 20? This is page numbers. You can't back and pages, hang on. It's the single audit response and improvement finding in the middle.
Oh, is it the one that I highlighted the verbiage?
The
Yes,
response
it-
must
yeah,
include more
response
definitive
It says, so it has to do with the finance manual. And a collaborative process with board members to respond to audit findings, so the response must include a more definitive and detailed response to audit findings are required. Sounds weird, like maybe there's a word missing or changed, but, what does that mean, a more definitive and detailed response? So this whole thing is inadequate, or because we're making changes, that's the more
No.
detail?
I believe that, when we, somebody's got a baby.
Sounds like my norm.
So my takeaway from this was, the process that we have outlined in our financial policy, our fiscal policy, says that when we receive the audit findings from the auditors, that we're going to go through those with the board, and the board is gonna make the recommendations for how we're gonna fix it. How that differs from what we've been doing is because the audits were, well, the first one, the whole entire year. For the next one was already passed before we got it. So they were past, they were looking back and seeing what the corrections should be. And the recommendations were made by the auditors and not by the board. And then we have followed suit 3 times now and done that. The auditor provides the recommended corrections. And then that's what I've been presenting to the board, because that's how I get the audit. And then we go through it as a board and, but we're supposed to, the board is supposed to be making the recommendation for what needs to change as opposed to the auditors.
So I think how we would do that would be, so typically you receive, and the auditor comes and visits and shares sometime before the budget is done, and shares the audit findings from the previous year. And it seems like then you would take those findings, and staff would then draft policies or, options for the board to consider, because we're not necessarily professionals in that. So it seems like you guys would draft the recommended changes, not just taking it verbatim or not just sharing what the audit was, but you would make changes in policy or whatever specific to what the audit findings were, so that we could then discuss and approve those. I think is how that would work.
That makes sense.
Is that what you're thinking, Jennifer or David?
Which number are you guys on? Because I'm trying to find it and I'm not seeing
It's
what
kind of
number.
in the middle of a page, about 4 or 5 pages
Well,
in.
if you look over it
2010.
to the far left hand, they have numbers on each one of them. It's 2010.
2010.
2010 single audit response improvement finding.
I think the biggest thing is that the collaborative piece is that the Umpqua staff is going to be working on those audit findings, but they will be reporting all of the findings to you as the board. And then you will ensure that those findings are closed. So you are going to be, the piece that you guys are doing is that you're making sure that those findings, number one, you know what all the findings are, and number two, that those findings get closed in a timely fashion.
So, yeah, it'd be good to just, a lot of times it's good to have the auditor, it's usually part of the package when they come and do it, just come and share with the board. What the audit findings are, and then we can, identify a timeline, I guess, for those to get done.
Okay.
And report back in those certain months, whether you bring in policy changes or modifications or whatever
Right.
financial stuff that we need to do.
Yep.
And then we'll have some options that we can discuss and
Okay,
do that, yeah.
It is a lengthy sentence.
It is, the English
Yeah,
isn't,
the
English
the
isn't right on it.
the sentence needs to be modified.
Is this the financial audit you're talking about, or was it?
Yes.
yes, so we recently had a financial audit in the month of March. And then, but the audit that this came from that audit. But this is our financial audit for a previous year.
Your annual
Yeah,
statutory required audit that happened at the end of fiscal, which is, so that you're probably in conversations now to start next audit.
yeah. And
We're still waiting on the audit findings from last year. The auditors delayed because they were on vacation or something like that. So typically the audit is completed before July 1, and they are, UPTD still has not received the final audit for the last year.
For June of 2023.
Wow.
Yeah,
And statutorily, that's okay?
no,
Okay.
There's a shortage of auditors across the state, so
Yeah.
everywhere.
Is there a reason we have to use an Oregon auditor?
No, as long as the auditor is qualified to
Because
We'd have to do an
conduct an audit, then
Okay.
they can be out of state. Mhm.
okay, because we're required statutorily to have an audit within 3 months because we manage a HUD property. So we had to go out of state because we could not find one in state to do that.
oh, interesting.
So
Okay.
we use somebody out of,
But it might be,
I want to say Tennessee, but
it
but
might
that was
be
that,
worth looking
that was
into if they're that far
purpose.
behind.
Yeah.
I mean, that's getting pretty.
because we kept getting
Ugly.
dinged and it's like, well, we can't, like, what do you want us to
Yeah.
do?
Right.
Well,
And that was a
Okay.
suggestion by RLS at the last review, is that perhaps you go with somebody outside of the state. And they've made that recommendation to several different districts because everybody across Oregon is having a hard time getting those audits done because there seems to be a shortage of auditors in Oregon. It would be a
Yeah.
good job to go into because you'd never run out of work.
No, thank you.
The, Jennifer, the auditor asked me for one more piece of information on Fridays and I haven't heard anything more. I sent it over to them, so I'm hoping that they're finalizing things.
And
we're
usually
gonna
just
see
put
it
the
any day.
information in a Dropbox, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
They grab it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Can you just explain a little bit about the process for an audit is conducted and they come forward with some findings, and who is the entity that they report those findings to? Is it somebody in this room?
Well, the final report comes to Sherry, our finance manager, and myself. And then we bring that to the board. But we also have to provide that to ODOT. And seems like I'll have to go and look it up, but I think Secretary of State too.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean.
And then it is reviewed by the Secretary of State, and then ODOT will issue a final report, and then Cheryl will get this report that says you've had these findings, you need to remedy them within this period of time. And so, yes, Secretary of State.
You've been doing this audit stuff for quite a while, right?
Every year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so, I was just more trying to get an understanding of, having dealt with some of this stuff before, the auditor. There's an entity that is kind of here's the path we're gonna take. It's defined.
Mhm.
And somebody's in charge.
Mhm.
Well, the auditor does the work and now somebody's in charge of coming back with corrective actions and all this other stuff. So I was more trying to understand, well, this entity here is one, ODOT's another. And so is it, I mean, is the lead entity on the response is the board, is that right? And so you
Yeah.
work with ODOT?
Yeah.
In resolving on all of the, and that's kind of the work, the grind that goes.
Yeah.
Yes, so I work with ODOT to resolve the findings and then we report to the board as we resolve findings.
Okay, and that works out pretty well in your estimation as far as is it gone?
Well, we started out behind with 2020, so.
Yeah.
So our first year, we didn't require an audit. We did a filing in lieu of audit because the dollar amount that passed through didn't qualify. So we were able to just do this one page single filing, and then 2020 hit and everything got delayed and delayed and
Yeah.
I know what you're
delayed
talking
more.
about.
Yeah. So,
Well, thank you.
It's a process of improvement.
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so, I guess we need a motion to approve the new action plan. No, you say not required. No, that's the other one. Sorry, I mentioned the other one.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
I would assume you need a
Yes.
motion, doesn't say.
Yes, review,
Next page there.
discuss, make any necessary changes when satisfied, motion to adopt.
Is there any changes anybody wants to make to anything else that's in there though? I guess that's the other
Do we
question.
get with one line about the wording? Does it matter?
I don't think it matters to me
Okay.
for this one. It's awkward.
Yeah, it's just gonna be.
Something's wrong, but I can't, it's hard to like tell
Can't figure
exactly
out
what it
what
is.
it's-
It seems like it needs to be two sentences.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
If
Does
it's
it
like three
matter
things in one
that
sentence.
due dates have passed and it still says in process? Should we change due dates or does that matter?
Oh, like the first one,
Like the very first one says it's in process, but due date was 6/1. So we've passed it.
so the weekly manager meetings have been in process. The position descriptions are complete. And board of directors is supposed to monitor the recommendation with periodic one-on-ones with managers and supervisors. So that's the new piece that was added, is the periodic one-on-ones.
Got it?
And the rest of that one under description was clarification about.
Directors must directly monitor this recommendation with periodically. So that reads to me like I am doing a one-on-one.
Board on ones,
Huh?
board on ones.
Well, I guess maybe that's my question. So are we doing one-on-ones with her? Cause this is the way it reads to me.
Yes.
That's correct.
That's why we did.
That's what was in the RLS report, yes.
Okay. Okay, and it reads the way it's it's intended, okay. Responsible for the more definitive and detailed response to audit documents, period.
Now, this is, we've only cut back on the demand response, correct?
No.
That was the layoffs we had.
We also cut back on the hours for the Winston and Sutherland routes as well.
Okay, so that
fixed
made
route.
that 20%. Okay,
And the weird sentence that's highlighted, if you literally just strike are required, I think it reads okay. The response must include a more definitive and
Yeah.
detailed response to audit, which maybe to required audit or, no, I just would do to
The audit
audit
findings,
finding,
period.
period.
Yeah.
Call it good.
Yeah.
It just reads weird. Yeah.
Might have been a leftover from another sentence that was in there.
Like you said, if you really want required, you put required response.
Yes, but yeah. Strike it. Okay.
Any other changes?
I think I'm done.
Should the one,
With the one that was drawn out in the note, on the word copy that I had sent out to you. was questioning, it's 2006.
Okay.
On the third page, and it is, general manager will have all board materials at a minimum of 7 calendar days ahead of the board meetings. So, the question on the side was because the board had a discussion and stated what they preferred to, items that are, that they have to study
Pressing.
or, yeah. Those things have to be the 7 days minimum, and the agenda was one of them that somebody had mentioned. But like the, say maybe the meeting minutes or something like that could be later. So the question is, do we make allowances for some of the meeting packet, or do we leave it as stated? And then it's a finding for me if it's not 7 days.
Do you have an assistant?
Not anymore.
I know
Okay,
the answer to
thinking.
the question.
Yeah.
It's stated in purpose. Cause honestly, like that's,
I think if we have the
I think it's-
agenda out and, like you said, the main. And the materials for the items, old and new business.
do we need to,
I
do we
think
need to
I will
change
read.
this to reference that there are certain items that could be later?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay. So.
Because we're gonna hold you guys accountable for whatever is in this document. So if there are things that are specific that you want to change, we want to make sure we reference that.
So is there anything beyond the meeting minutes that you would like?
So the things that typically come to me later than, like I was still receiving, information today. Like
Right.
the preventive maintenance report stuff, came in on, I don't know if it was Thursday or Friday, but I was on a different project at the time that it came in. And so I was actually able to process that today. And then just little changes, which were not a big deal, changing out,
So instead of specifying certain items, should we say that everything needs to be sent to us within 7 days? With the exception of the meeting minutes. And any information that is obtained after those 7 days.
Or when at all possible.
I guess,
That's-
I guess I would say that certainly the old business, the new business, and the project updates. Those are the things that I would rather have 7 days in advance. To that agenda that was created 7 days ago. With an understanding that agenda may continue to
Evolve.
evolve over the
Yep.
week, even up until the time of the meeting. I know when I was on the city council, when we had changed agendas, even the day of the meeting, they would just give us a new agenda sheet.
Yep.
Or new agenda items in a colored paper, so that we knew that that was the new
Different.
stuff.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, you can change them all the way up to the day of the meeting, all the way to the start of the meeting, so. But it ought to be everything that we thought we were gonna do
Right.
7 days in advance.
Well, the other piece of it is our bylaws need to match. So whatever we decide.
Another bylaw change?
So I sent them on Tuesday, which is technically 7 days. But does the 7 days mean not including the Monday of the board meeting? Those were the questions that came to my mind. Because some people look at 7 days as it has to be on Monday if the meeting is on Monday. But there was 7 days from Tuesday to Monday.
That's what Monday means. That's what 7 days means to me.
Yeah, so.
I'm an executive director, so I'm like, I need my 1
7
day.
days oftentimes is it working days.
No, it does say calendar days.
Calendar day.
So that one
Yeah, cause
Right.
it does say
Yep.
here,
yeah.
I would say, I guess when I read 7 calendar days, I interpret it as Monday.
I would prefer because it's a lot of reading.
It is.
But
I'm not gonna read it till Saturday.
I think if you
Yeah.
get too into the weeds as far as what you're saying needs to be presented and isn't, I understand you're saying those are the critical, the big
Mhm.
reading,
Mhm.
but I think we need to be careful in how you word it. So
Well, I mean, you're creating an agenda 7 days in advance, so
Right.
if, you know, and so, for example, on this
Well,
one,
the
we
building
open it
permit,
at,
but-
instead yeah, we've got minutes, we've got a preventive maintenance report. I don't care, you can share that with me at the meeting, I mean, they're lower priority items, that's why it's on the consent calendar, right? The financial report is good to have out, I think that's important to have out, so we can take a look at that. Old business, new business, those are the main things really that we're doing. The updates, I don't know that there's much to, I don't know, I mean, you can share that at the meeting as far as I'm concerned, I guess, but, yeah, because any of this kind of like wording would be underneath the business.
Right, as long as we're meeting public meeting law requirement,
Right.
that's the other piece of it.
Right.
And so I was reading up on that, and it really holds you to what's in your bylaws. So if the bylaws say that we're gonna have our meeting agenda, and I believe that's what ours say, it doesn't say all meeting materials, but it says
Right.
the agenda posted. Then we're meeting our bylaws, but this is all meeting materials.
But we need
And-
materials to be able to review,
Right,
yeah,
so I just, I don't want to not meet the intent of this, you know, I wanna make sure that I'm doing what is necessary to, you know, check off the mark on our action plan.
so would it be acceptable just to outline those broad categories, or, I mean, then she's got whatever is on that agenda.
Yeah,
And, you know, if you had to add stuff later on, you gotta add stuff later on, because of that, that's what happens.
as long as we
Yeah.
continue to meet, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
Just a line in there saying we'll continue to meet public notification required,
Meeting.
whatever the
Okay.
right word.
Yeah, but
Meetings.
the goal isn't to hide stuff from the public, that
Yeah.
we don't have it ready, so therefore it's not gonna be on the agenda. You know, but if we think that we can have it ready, put it on the agenda.
Right.
And if you don't
Agreed.
think it might not be ready, maybe don't put it on the agenda and adjust your agenda. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, there's a couple of things on the
Agreed.
agenda tonight that I thought would be ready that aren't, so
Yeah.
we'll get there in
Yeah.
projects, yeah.
So, okay, so we're looking at financial report, old business, new business,
Project.
and
update.
project updates.
Okay,
That's what you said.
very good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Does that work, Jennifer?
And 7 days being
Yes.
the Monday, before the Monday, does that work for
The
you?
Monday. The Monday, yes, I can make it work,
Okay.
you know,
So let me
Yes, as
just
long
back-
as we can get it adopted and any modifications are on there. And if you could do red line when you make the modifications so that I can see the changes. Because I did not get them into this document here.
okay,
Since we're talking about that, the general manager report is always really, I always find it interesting to kind of see what you did or whatever. And I know you don't have an executive assistant, so maybe you don't have time for all of this, but sometimes it's nice. What we did when we were in the city is we changed it from we had met twice a month, but from just having that to just a weekly, just kind of a weekly email, really, just from the city manager to just kind of said, hey, these are some of the things we did this week.
okay,
And that way, we're just always up to speed, not just once a month.
Yeah.
Just every week, we kind of know, hey, you know,
The
we did some of these.
weekly would be great.
Yeah, doesn't have to be really long or anything like
But
that,
that's
but
not written into here as a requirement.
it's not written in here as a requirement. I'm just saying that's kind
Clarify,
of,
she got her pen out.
Yeah.
like, No,
no,
no.
no, no, I can put this
Yeah.
on my calendar and that's actually.
it's just kind of a nicety so that we
Yeah.
kind of feel more of what's going,
No
you know,
requirement
what's going on than once a month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
It's easier to
Okay.
digest.
Yeah. it is.
I will say that I've noticed 100% improvement since March on the materials we're getting
Mhm.
and the timeliness of them. And I've appreciated that.
Being
Being able to read them over and
Great.
it's great.
I got it.
Okay, we are ready, are we done with 8.1? Do we need a motion or anything on that? Okay, so is there a motion for 8.1 with those modifications?
I make a motion to adopt 8.1 with modification.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Right?
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Let's move on to 8.2, update on financial software. service.
I have had several meetings now, 3 different softwares, Cassell, MIP and Sage. I am still waiting for NetSuite. I have not had NetSuite yet. But I can definitely look into that one, but I haven't gotten any pricing from MIP or Sage yet. They're still working on those. The only one that we have gotten is from Cassell, so,
It has a
I have a
woefully different
call.
price.
I have a call with, Sage.
What's the price range they're giving? Well, it was the one that,
30 and
you just give me a
85.
range.
Yeah.
30 and 85.
Mhm.
One's cloud-based and one's hosted based on your server.
Yeah.
The server one is 30,000 compared to.
I can say
85,000.
that so far, Sage would be my first pick, just based off of, the grant management piece of the software. And the fact that they have a report built in to help with the CIPA report, which is,
Oh, that's
part of the single audit,
Yeah,
reporting that we have to do. So those, were two.
and did we get a grant for this, or is
Not
there?
yet, but we're gonna have.
This is
Thank you.
something that we're gonna be.
So once we know the price, we'll go for a grant, got it, thank you,
We'll go for a grant plus extra just in case.
for implementation,
Yeah.
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 Is there any, like maintenance of the system? anything like that?
There's always a monthly.
Mhm.
Yep, there is. There's a monthly as well as the.
Yeah, the month,
Upfront.
It's almost $1,000 different.
So I
and
see here you
what's-
received a new proposal from Cassell. Are they offering anything different, or is that just maintaining what we currently have?
No, Cassell's one of them that also, the 3 different softwares that I've, looked into so far all have the grant management piece that we desperately need.
Is Cassell adequate?
Yes.
Okay.
Um, I, these 3 softwares came from, a quarterly finance manager meeting that, we haven't had one lately, Jennifer, but, we were having some with all of the Oregon Transit, agencies, the finance managers, we were meeting quarterly and discussing things, and I had asked that specific question, like, what are you guys using? And so some of these came off of that list.
Okay, my automatically goes to 15,000 with the 1,600 maintenance.
Yeah. Yep.
But if you're using Cassell and we're trying to upgrade from that,
Oh, well, we're
It's
not
gotta be
using Excel
adequate.
right now, we're using QuickBooks. We're at we're at the bare bones account,
Hmm,
yeah,
I really suggest that you look at next week. It's the best
Okay.
implementation we've ever done.
that's sweet.
I'm not saying it meets all your qualifications, like we do different services, so it's possible it doesn't, but it's the. By far the best implementation we've ever done.
Okay,
How long are the contracts? Are each one a certain amount of years or? We don't know that.
do you remember seeing a specific year on the one Becky that we got from Casella?
There was a contract.
I don't think there was a
just
contract
as
on
long
it.
as We kept paying for it, we had it.
Yep,
Because like, for instance, let's look at Cassell, like the sticker price of 85 grand hurts. But in a matter of 5 years, your monthly maintenance is. You've killed the price difference.
right,
So if this is something that's gonna last us 10 years.
right,
Then you've already exceeded that price. I know those are horrible words, but you get what I'm trying to say,
Yeah.
right? So I would actually, like, if you wanted that one, I would recommend we went with the more expensive initial. Cause it'll cost us less after 5 years.
well, it just depends too, if we wanna go, server-based or, a hosted.
And I don't know why
software.
you would do server-based anymore, I'm just gonna be
Yeah.
honest. It's just not the way of the future.
The
Not
host, the
necessarily.
software, the online version was much cheaper, so, it was 30,000.
But the cost per month is.
But the cost per
twice
month
as
was,
much.
yeah,
Right.
it was twice as much,
So-
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's,
okay, that's their first proposal.
Right.
Cassell.
yeah, and then the
And the new
second,
one is 15,798 and 1,647 a month.
right,
The difference is the HR piece.
yeah,
The
we
first one had
removed
HR.
the HR piece.
No HR included, see it,
Right.
got it.
And that was because our benefits packages, they all go through, special districts and we have to access their portal and things like that, so we just decided that the HR piece probably wasn't kind of fiscally beneficial, really. to have
Well, we
it
grow
at this point.
extremely large. I
Yeah.
don't see it being cost effective to have that right now.
So the other two I've asked.
$15,798.
No, I think she's still, we're not making a motion right now.
No, we're not making a motion.
Okay.
This, yeah, it's just information only. This is just something, that's part of our action plan that I've been updating, ODOT because, we did talk about this during RLS audit and upgrading our software so that we would have
And we're still waiting for other proposals too, you said?
two more.
Yeah.
Yep. Hoping to have those, maybe by the end of the month.
And is this? How negotiable are these rates? Is that something that you like to do? Cause that's kind of my,
We pick what you
Jam.
want, and that's what you pay for.
Yep.
nah, not in my experience. I pick what I want and then I say, and I wanna pay the 1066 a month, make it happen.
We didn't have a chance to get that far.
Yeah,
That's
we
what
haven't gotten
that's what I
that
mean
far.
by negotiable,
At
like.
all. We thought that the project was gonna be on hold for a little, for
Yeah, yeah,
longer.
yeah.
And I mean, really realistically, we're probably looking at,
Cause to get your business, they will
Next year,
sell you the moon.
or the
So
But they're not gonna
let's-
do any deals till they know they have.
100%.
Do we have the RFP?
Yes,
Yeah,
once we know that we have a grant coming,
funding.
yeah, then we want to do the RFP.
And Jennifer's given me a list of like, for local, agencies as well that we could try to get a grant to, so.
Cool.
We'll be researching some of those other options, Cow Creek, different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have experience there too. but
Once
I don't
we-
like that part. I
Once
like
we
the
kind of know what we're
negotiation.
really looking at, which product and how much and.
Yeah.
I mean. Like I said, at this point, Sage would be my number one preference. I don't know how much more expensive they will be than the other two. If they will be more expensive, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't wanna pick something just because it's the least expensive. I wanna pick something that I feel that it's going to last us and grow with us. And that we won't go out of.
And the grant can
And
include-
have to do it again.
Yeah, your grant can include probably 3 years of your expense. So I would
Yes.
just make sure to do that.
Okay, any other discussion on the financial software? Okay, let's move on to the drug and alcohol policy review and adoption.
Okay, so, this is the,
This one's the big one.
yeah, this one is sort of like the bylaws, it keeps coming back.
Just one time.
So, there are a number of things that have happened. This was all sparked because I sent the policy that we adopted in March to RLS. Along with, there is an FTA policy builder online that, you can do, it's like the employee friendly version of the policy. And I was under the impression that you could have both the employee friendly, which is compliant, and the detailed one, which is our book. And hand the employee friendly one out to the employees, and the other though is our policy, our full policy. But I was incorrect, and because I sent both copies to them, they've asked for it to come back to the board for re-review. The other piece of it is the attachment A, which I think I put attachment A at the beginning. And there is the current one that's in the policy, which is the shorter one. And then the revised one is, if you notice at the bottom, it has the human resource manager added, the office manager, which is Cindy in our downtown office. And it has, for me, FTD general manager, DAPM, drug and alcohol program manager, DER is designated employee representative. So in the one that we passed, I had not updated attachment A, so it was not all inclusive. And it still showed me as sometimes when this previously showed me as an FTA testing authority. And now it doesn't, but that's because I printed the wrong version of it. So the one that we approved showed me still under FTA testing authority. At the end of this document, there is also the resolution that we passed back in November. And from reading the minutes of our meeting that this was passed in, and reading the resolution, and then comparing that to the recommendation from RLS that is in the drug and alcohol site review report. They felt that perhaps I had not provided all of the information necessary. And so I need to clarify that during the drug and alcohol program manager training that I went to, there was active, interaction between the presenter and the people in the audience. And when we were at this piece, I questioned heavily, because it was sounding like everything that he was saying sounded to me like I should be removed from the pool. So I questioned, and then he questioned me, do you drive, the vehicles, do you go out on route and drive routes anymore? No, I don't. Am I somebody that takes vehicles to the drivers if there's a breakdown? Not anymore. I'm not. How long has it been since I drove a route? 5 years. So all of these things, they said, if I am in the pool, it taints the pool. And the easiest thing to do was to take me out of the pool. So that's the conversation that I was referencing when we did this resolution. However, the resolution, when I wrote it, references our drug and alcohol site review, which we had the same kind of conversation and alternatives were provided. But the one that is cited in the report says that an option would be, it doesn't say it's the only option, and it doesn't say it's the option that we have to take, but an option would be to find an alternate to accept the draw if I were drawn in the draw. So I had a good conversation with our ODOT compliance gentleman this morning as well. And I think that part of the confusion also was that there was the thought process that I was completely removed from testing at all. And I still fall under the
Reasonable suspicion.
under our drug and alcohol policy that applies to, it's got the safety sensitive portion of it that applies to all of our drivers, our dispatchers, anybody that has the authority to tell revenue service vehicles where to go or to drive a revenue service vehicle. And then the non-DOT portion of it is for anybody that is not a safety sensitive position. When we started the district, I was absolutely still safety sensitive. I had my hands in everything. I still, was that person that could take a bus if necessary. And I just, I don't do that anymore. So it really is up to you guys. I am fine either way with being in the pool or not being in the pool. When they said cleanest and easiest, that's why I went with that recommendation in the resolution back in November. The questions came because I provided 2 policies, but also because the recommendation that is cited here in the resolution is not the same recommendation that was cited in the report. So I just need to put everything on the table so that everybody knows, that there's more than one option. This is not the only option. We can rescind the the resolution and put me back in the safety sensitive pool. Or we could leave things as they are. And I see that David is on here. So is there anything that you would like to add to that, David?
But yes, thank you. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
I just want to add one point of clarification, and that is that currently, I don't believe that the general manager is in the testing pool at all, either FTA or non-FTA. So I think at the very least, the general manager could be put back into the non-FTA testing pool with the rest of the non-FTA sensitive employees.
Non-DOT.
So there, and it was just a little bit concerning to me because this was also never reported to RLS as a closure to a finding. And RLS has made many attempts to try to reach out and try to get the ball rolling on these findings that were due in January. So that's where a lot of these questions started coming from. And as I read through the resolution, I did not feel that it represented the situation accurately. So I appreciate, Cheryl, you clarifying some of what was going on there. But I think, and I'll have to clarify this with RLS, but I don't really find there to be any sort of legitimate reason for the general manager to be out of the testing pool altogether. The recommendation for having an alternate, I believe Cheryl had said earlier today, was being satisfied by at first making the new executive assistant an alternate, which would have been totally acceptable, or having the HR director also be an alternate, which is also kind of more of an industry standard and totally acceptable as well.
Thank you, David.
Would it ever be that the general manager would be as involved as you were? Like if somebody came in as a new general manager, would they ever be as involved with you with driving and all that kind of thing?
No.
So there would be no reason to be.
Well, if our operations manager left.
If everybody left all at the same time.
I mean, if you lost a, main player like that, and I mean, there's a possibility that.
Well, that's why I'm wondering if the language was that, because in your circumstance, it's one way, but could it for the foreseeable future ever be?
Well,
Different.
I see David's recommendation is just putting her into the non-FTA pool,
Yeah.
which means non-safety sensitive.
I would like to
That would-
interject for just a moment again. I apologize. Mike Baker makes a fantastic point actually about the operations manager, currently Randy, that position is safety sensitive. So anybody who stands in for the operations manager would have to be a safety sensitive employee in the testing pool if they're to be directly interacting with dispatchers and drivers for those official duties. And there has been a bit of maybe confusion about how far those duties would extend. As I understand, there have been occasions where it has been presented that the general manager is the backup for the operations manager as recently as this year. And that is a little bit concerning. So if the general manager is in the non-FTA side of the pool, it should just be established somewhere in writing exactly what the chain of command is for the operations manager specifically, to avoid any sort of conflict in the future like that.
So what's really the difference between, besides the who does what? Is it a frequency, if it's non-FTA versus FTA, is it certain types of drugs versus other types of drugs?
I think it's just more often.
Well, it's a different chain of custody form when you go in and have your test done. So it's a specific testing process.
They're both random.
If you're in the non-DOT or the non-FTA pool, then you would fall under FMCSA because I have a CDL. So, that it would be basically the same but different testing. They're testing for the same drugs.
One
But
take longer, do you have to send one
different
off
levels?
somewhere?
nope, it's all the same stuff, but it's different forms.
And if you were on
be
FTA, that
compliant.
would cover anything that was non-FTA, right? So maybe we just do FTA and then you're just covered all the way around.
Did I read right that the tolerance limits for alcohol would be the difference? That one's 0.02 and one's 0.04.
Yes,
Correct.
So a non-FTA would be 0.04.
She has a CDL.
yeah.
Choose
Oh,
CDL
for me,
that
it would
elevates
still
it,
be
it,
point oh
hers
two.
is elevated no matter what.
Yeah.
Even non-FTA. it's
Yeah,
still
yeah,
0.02.
because of her
She
CDL,
has a CDL.
Yeah.
it changes it.
That's a requirement.
So, yeah, so it's sounding like
We kinda,
you kind of want to cover the
Does one
bases
cost more
for
than the other?
Future, you don't want
I
it
don't think so.
specific to.
is there a
Kind of
situation, is there a situation
No.
where you wouldn't be Randy's backup? Or there's someone else that can cover for Randy?
Well,
We got a
so,
transit supervisor.
transit supervisors are usually working in harmony with Randy. The only, the way that I'm a backup is if they have a question about, what bus should we send out? Because this
So
one,
you're still making those decisions,
I can.
if Randy's not here,
I would say just do the FTA one and then
Yeah.
we're covered.
then we're covered.
Besides, you never know what the circumstances,
Well,
you don't
that-
want to have to
well-
keep going over it and changing it.
And this November, resolution took you out of the FTA, right? So by rescinding that one, it puts you back in the FTA and that's all we have to do.
I make a motion, we rescind the
2305.
2305.
All right, very good.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I feel like she.
Questions approved.
Hi there. Can I just, sorry, can I pop in one more time?
Yeah,
Just to clarify, so the resolution was to put the general manager back in the FTA side of the pool?
Yeah.
so we revoked the previous resolution, which then puts her back into the pool as previous.
So back into the FTA side of things.
Correct.
Yes,
Okay, cool. Excellent. Sounds like a plan.
okay.
Thank you.
So
Thank you,
who
David.
seconded for Doug?
I did, I
Okay.
think,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Shoot.
very good.
To hear, I have to say,
That's awesome.
I kind of like to hear.
I just have comments on agenda A. One's a question, one's a comment. My title is incorrect. I'm the HR director, I'm not the HR manager. My second question is this transit trainer? This is a position I've never heard of. Our supervisors downstairs, their job duties are listed on the job description as transit supervisor / trainer. As it is in one, not two separate positions. I don't know why it's listed separately on here. And then my other question is what, I guess I'm not understanding the U-Trans in front of the UPTD for the drivers.
U-Trans drivers all have CDLs.
But we don't go by U-Trans anymore, is my understanding.
It's on all of our buses. The U-Trans is our fixed route bus system. And the U-Trans drivers are our FTD CDL drivers that drive our fixed route bus system. The FTD non-CDL drivers are the demand response drivers that are our Umpqua rights drivers.
So they listed twice as a U-Trans FTD CDL driver and as a U-Trans
Not,
FTD CDL. Well, they both say it's transit bus. It's just the top one.
right,
The top one of each page,
Couple times.
it's just on there twice.
Well, like the fourth one down also says U-Trans, UPTD Transit Supervisor.
Mhm.
Like, so there's that same,
so that differentiates from like the call center dispatch supervisor. It's just a way that we have always called out their the differences between their jobs.
the actual bus driver compared to
Mhm.
the
Van driver.
And
the van driver.
and the transit trainer position was a position, and we didn't remove it from the list because we still have people that train.
Is it someone's current job description? Is it going to be someone's current, like, is it a future job that would be rehired if there was funding?
If there was funding and we were able to expand, absolutely, we would need it.
And I would remove it for that purpose, but that would be my 2 cents.
It's just not filled.
It's just not filled currently, it's
Right,
a
it's not a
currently
good-
open position.
Yeah.
So then there's one more issue. It states in our drug and alcohol policy that when you've been removed from the drug and alcohol pool for more than 90 days, you have to go for a pre-employment drug screen. So that would apply to Cheryl if you're putting. her in the TA pool.
I get to get
So I don't know, since you guys are her supervisor, who sent her?
I can send me.
I've sent myself as supervisor before too.
Yeah.
I covered a shift and we found something on site and then I got to drug test the site and I was right there and he said, isn't this your signature? And I said, yep, yep, it is.
Yeah.
So that's typically, yeah. Okay. Done.
Okay, 8.4 charging stations.
Apologize. I'm gonna jump in there one more minute on that one.
Yeah.
It's me again, so sorry. One of the findings in the drug and alcohol report was having an alternate. It's kind of what inspired all of this in the first place. And because I think that there might be a bit of an issue about somebody sending themselves. Because the
Okay.
main issue was you would receive the list from OcuHealth of the random drug pools. And the issue was, what if you receive a list that has your own name on it? You would
And
then
then
be
you have-
sending
Oh.
yourself to go take a drug test. And
Mhm.
that's one of the actual findings. So it actually is a bit of an issue. So there needs to be an
Right.
alternate identified
Right.
at UPTD
So,
who would get the list in that case.
so to clarify, the board is requiring her to go, so there's no list being sent. We're just saying that she's authorized to send herself in this specific situation,
But
not
it's
for the randoms.
but it's the board sending her. So
Yes,
not necessarily, okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure like that she's not sending herself, the board is sending her. Just so that when I
Correct.
talk to RLS and they're like, she sent herself, I go, no. The board sent her. Okay, I just wanted to, just point of
Nice clarification.
clarification. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Does there need to be an alternate for the randoms?
Yes, there does.
And he said that would fall
HR?
HR.
So the random list gets sent to both parties at the same time?
No.
Or only if Cheryl's name is pulled?
Only if my name is pulled.
Okay,
And who, when it gets pulled,
so OcuHealth knows that and then they send it to the secondary?
So OcuHealth doesn't email us a list. We have to log on to their site and pull the list.
That's
And
fine.
until you pull the list, you don't know if your name's on it. or not.
Well, when the list gets generated, if my name is on it, Beth has always been the one to notify me. But that was, we didn't have the two.
And Beth is
people
OcuHealth, to clarify.
Yeah,
For this
yeah,
line item.
And now she knows that
do
she
that.
should know if your name gets pulled, that she'll also notify Becky.
Yes, so
Okay.
we'll have to put that in writing and I will send that over to OcuHealth, but I'll also ask Becky to sign it as well.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So charging stations, so Michaela had asked that I put this on the agenda for discussion because we have the 3 charging stations that were delivered in October. And that was prior to a lot of everything that's happened since. So I understand that there are other agencies that might be interested in purchasing our charging stations. My challenge with that is the grant is open. Where we've utilized funding off the grant and it is open until December of 2026, which gives us plenty of time to determine whether or not the transportation package is gonna go through. If the transportation package goes through, then as we would have a STIF project that is specific to rebuilding our match for the projects that we already had in place and for additional new projects. So although this might be a decision that needs to be made at some point in the future, my understanding was that my direction was to slow roll the process so that we would have more information before we pulled the trigger on the order for the electric buses. Or before we decided we needed to sell the charging stations. So that was my understanding of what we were doing. But,
And
Yeah, because the transportation package will really
that'll,
determine whether we
that'll
can
be
proceed
a
or not.
policy option package for the 25
Session.
session.
Yeah.
yes,
Thank you.
yes.
January.
And, well, but it won't go into effect necessarily until.
Won't happen, but we'll know if something's coming up.
Yes.
And so it'll take time,
Sure.
maybe even to 2026
Sure.
for the revenues to start pouring in, but then we know they're gonna be coming in and we know what to do.
So-
But if it doesn't pass,
Is
then we might
there,
as well get rid of it, and, yeah.
is there a way to put a tickler to remind us, in January of 2026 to have this conversation again? That way it would give
Yes.
us 12 months to sell.
Yes, and Jennifer has her hand up.
We'll know in the summer next year.
Right.
Right,
July.
and this grant is gonna expire. We don't anticipate getting additional funding from, even if the transportation package passes. It takes typically 6 to 9 months for us to realize the revenue from those funds. So we will probably not see that money until 2027. Possibly at the earliest. If it gets passed next year, those revenues don't start accruing immediately. It has to go into place. And then it's 6 to 9 months. So, I mean, we're probably not seeing these funds until, I mean, possibly 2026, middle of the year.
Right.
But more than likely not. It's going to be a bit of a delay on that. Not right away. It's not going to happen.
We've got the infrastructure bank.
If that's the case though, and you have people that you know wanna buy,
So,
is it better to sell
So
now?
selling
And
isn't as easy as all that though, because we've spent some of the money in other places, so we
So
wouldn't
no,
have to.
of that grant, we've only spent the charging station money
Oh,
of that grant.
So
Just
that
kidding.
grant, well, I
It's comprised of-
included it in your package so that you could reference it. But it has, and I believe it is. I don't know how far back, I should have marked it. Where are the signature pages?
It's toward the back.
There we go. 13, page 12.
Yep.
So 1.2 million of it was for the building the maintenance facility. And then 550,000 of it was I would have to go in and look at the description, but it was for those two things were together to build the charging station, the preventive maintenance facility, and we had it was going to be set up to have the solar power to offset some of the energy costs so that it, we wouldn't be taking on yet another overpriced energy source. And then 3 million of it was for the buses. And the 318,000 was for the charging stations. We spent the 286,748.
The 286,748 is the federal portion, so if we sold them, we would have to pay that portion, I believe,
Mhm.
back.
We'd
to the
have to pay
federal
that back.
government.
but not the local match of 31,000.
28,110 is what our match was.
Yeah.
On what we actually spent on the charging station.
And then the 250,000, the grant amount of 225, that is for training. So in the event that all of this moves forward and we get the buses, then the training would be to send whoever is going to be responsible for that piece of our maintenance, to send them back during the bus build so they could see how the buses go together and how that high voltage stuff works and all that kind of stuff. And then they would also the team would come and train all of our drivers and supervisors and anybody that was going to have anything to do with the buses. They would also train our local first responders how to deal with a situation if there were a thermal event is what they call it.
That's the fancy name for fire.
Yeah.
Fire that won't go out.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, you know, it's pretty impressive grant. It is the, you know, it's what we were gonna use to catapult us forward to having our own preventive maintenance. And, you know, those kinds of things, but,
I would
Right
say
now,
it's premature right now to do anything, but.
yeah, that's my
Well, if the
thought process.
process so long. Then, and we're not gonna get the money in time anyway.
Well, we don't know that, and there's a possibility you could go to infrastructure bank or different other ways to do it. So,
Yeah, ODOT has a bank that's specific for these types of projects, and as long as we get our finances in alignment. Then that at some point in the future would be an option. But it's, my thought is, it's just not a decision that has to be made today. But it is definitely a decision that we're gonna want to revisit on a regular basis as we
Yes,
move forward, you
it
know?
needs to stay on the radar.
Right.
I would say we ought to look at it sometime in like, I'm just gonna say like March, April time again,
Of
just review
25.
it again, of
Mhm.
25.
Yes,
And I picked those dates because the legislature will have met, so there will be some kind of legislation out there, we'll kind of have an idea of
Where
the
the
power
things are
behind it.
headed.
Yeah, but also, it allows us to look at it in terms of, budget, for the next fiscal year to determine how we might need to make adjustments depending on the decision that we might make.
And Jennifer
Right now
has a
you
hand.
have, right now you own the chargers, is that right?
Yes.
yes,
3 of them?
yes.
So you have any idea what the value of that charger is today? Do you want to
Well,
sell
it
it?
should be $286,000.
I mean, would you sell it? Yeah.
Plus the other
Well,
30,000 that.
But that's what I was wondering, you said you have people that are interested in them,
Um,
is it a legitimate offer?
there was.
It's a vague,
Global.
it's
Yes,
a
it's
vague
vague.
offer.
Yes,
Cause if,
It's
Jennifer, do you
actually
know?
RVTD that is interested in them. So Rogue Valley Transportation District, they're putting in new charging stations and are going to have to purchase them. The one thing that I want to just bring to your attention, and I'm sure Cheryl has thought about this, but by the time that you purchase your vehicle, there is the possibility that these items might be obsolete. So that's, so you do need to look at revisiting this more often so that you
I
ensure
don't
that
like the
you don't
idea
have
of waiting.
those items.
Well, that's why I said March or something.
Well, that's what I mean, I'd like the idea of pursuing right now, if we have somebody who's interested and they are moving. Let's try and make them legitimate and see if we could get the money.
Jennifer, I have a question. If we did sell them, say to RVTD, and we paid that money back on that portion of the grant, would it then be available to us later to purchase a new set?
More than likely not, because I don't know that you guys would have that in place before the grant expired in 2026. So probably not. And I mean, the grant to get an electric vehicle, your guys' match is $300,000, I think, isn't it? Is it 600,000 or $1 million something for your vehicles, or 3 million? So
It's a $600,000 match.
yeah. So
the other piece of this is that these are, they were replacement vehicles. So we ordered 2 replacement vehicles, clear back, I'm gonna say 2020. And they went through this whole process of, we extended our grant, they raised the price, we extended our grant again, they raised the price. And then they still couldn't provide those vehicles, for, you know, by the end of the grant, and it couldn't be extended again. And the price had been increased so much that it was now twice as much for the 2 vehicles as it was when we initially ordered it. So those were replacement vehicles that we thought we were gonna get, that now we have to start a process all over. That were for the, 2 of the 5 internationals that are out there. The internationals are 2016.
They're old.
Mhm. And they are money buckets. They were the first year that the DEF came out. And so there's, you know, it's just hand over fist, money, 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 money. And every time something happens to one of them, it happens to all of them at the same mileage, you know, or, you know, within a 10,000 mile range. So when we're talking about replacement of sensors, sometimes it's $3,000 sometimes. When we're talking about replacing the DEF, the ceramic DEF filter, you know, it used to be $2,000 to go and get it baked. And which cleans it out, and then they could reinstall it, and we were good to go for, you know, a good long time after that. That process isn't working so well anymore. And, you know, the systems are failing. And so on the preventive maintenance report, oh, you guys only have the data. One of the maintenance that was missed, we missed on 2 vehicles this last time. They were not within the plus or minus 500 miles. But one of those was missed because if we took it out of service, then one of our routes would have had to go down. If we had taken it out of service to get it serviced in the plus or minus 500 miles, one of our routes would have gone down, which is an acceptable reason to not have it serviced in time. That's the second time I've seen that in the last couple of months. So we're not talking about, we don't have any other vehicles on order.
You don't have a backup.
Right. We don't have a grant for any other vehicles. These 3 electric buses were supposed to be replacements for the Roseburg route only, to be able to do this in-town stuff, to meet that requirement of the, I think it's 2035 when they're expecting us to have things changed over. Well, that's coming right up really, when you're talking about if we applied for a grant to replace vehicles in the fall. For starters, if we don't have our audit compliance things resolved, our financial audit compliance resolved, then we don't qualify for the grant. So we have to wait for the next audit. So that's a year goes by. So then this time frame next year, then we would be looking at applying for a grant. We would find out in 2026, in the spring of 26, whether or not we receive the grant. We would have that grant executed July of 2026, and the soonest you get vehicles anymore is at least a year. So we're looking at 2027 to replace vehicles that are already over their useful life expectancy and mileage, but they're also really close in the years as well. We don't have a backup plan. We received the 3 smaller vehicles, which are adequate for our commuter routes, our South County routes. One of them is a Lemon. It is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Randy said we have less than 10,000 miles on it. And we received it back in October because it is constantly in the shop, you know, so that's what happens.
Is that a diesel vehicle? Diesel?
That is actually a gas. Oh, yeah, it's a hybrid. It's a hybrid.
Okay,
So it's a gas hybrid. Yeah.
so is your inventory of vehicles, is it, I don't know how many, yeah, let's just say
17.
7?
17.
17. Okay, how many of those are diesel and how many of those are gas hybrid?
5 of them are the international diesels. One is a 2003 15 passenger diesel. So that one could have gone in graffiti. The drivers asked if they could drive it in graffiti.
One of the things I really worry about is the political landscape, right? The election's coming up, we might have a new president from a new party that fundamentally different than what we have.
Correct.
So all of this money for these type of things, probably won't have any issue supplying diesel. Okay, because that's the,
That's the
if Trump
preferred.
gets elected, that's kind of what
Yeah,
you'll do, and EVs will go away
Yeah.
as much as you can.
Yeah.
Now, if you were in the state of California, they have their own money.
Laws,
They,
yeah.
they don't really care sometimes what the federal government says, they're gonna pay for it. I don't know whether Oregon has the horsepower to do that on their own without federal funding.
right,
And that's the landscape you gotta take care of.
Into account.
The other thing I
Yes.
just really worry about is how, it's gonna be 2-3 years before, if everything goes right, then you get it. But
Yeah.
that's the big if.
Yeah.
So you have very high risk. That,
Plus they're old and everything might not be compatible anyway.
yeah, I mean, the
It's
charging,
kind of
units
a lot- it
the
is a
charging
lot.
units are probably, you're not gonna even, that they're antiquated by the time you get the vehicles.
Well, they're for the specific vehicles
Yeah.
that we had planned to purchase.
Mhm.
So,
But I understand, this is a difficult problem because it is part of the political landscape.
mhm,
And right now, there's money for EV stuff, like sounds like there is. But I'm not sure that will be the case in a year or two.
I agree.
So what do we do?
The problem with that is those charging stations, if that happens, they'll be worthless.
Well, actually, they would be able to charge regular cars too. And, you know, if we ended up, so you purchase a bus like that, any one of the buses that is gonna be a 30 passenger or more, a class B bus. It is a 10-year lifespan for those buses. And so whether it's electric or it's diesel, it's gonna be 10 years. So our 2016 internationals, they're 10 years. The smaller vehicles, the gas Fords, which we have, 7 of those now, I believe, 8. Those are, only a 4-year for the smaller ones, and then for the 4 that are 23 passengers, 7-year expected lifespan. But it's only 150,000 miles, you know, they say 4 years, 150,000 miles. For the smaller ones, the 15 passenger ones, 7 years, 250,000 miles. Well, when we retired the last ones that went to auction, that we couldn't keep funneling the money into them to keep them as backup in either. Those were in the 400,000 mile range, you know. We unfortunately have been in the position for a very long time where they get driven until they won't run anymore.
Behind that ball.
Yeah,
So what would be the process to pay for the new vehicles? Would we need to get a different grant? Like what could get this back on track?
well, it's a number of different things. We need to have the match money before we even think about applying for a grant.
Okay.
And so that's another piece of it. The other thing that would get it back on you know, the right path is the audit findings. So that's the other thing that right
Yeah.
now prevents us from applying
Even
for a
applying.
new grant.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mm.
so that puts applying for hopefully a diesel vehicle without all the fun EPA stuff on it. That puts that process and at least another year out too. Because we have to have the match before we can apply. And we don't have that. We don't even have that and written into our budget as unallocated funds,
Right.
you know, so.
Is there a projection on what the electric bill would increase if we were to utilize these? Cause I'm thinking fuel will decrease like the 120,000 quarterly,
Mhm.
that would decrease, but will it match the other, or?
So for Oregon, Pacific Northwest.
Yep.
You know, we have some of the least expensive electricity around.
Yes.
I know that for Sunline down in Southern California, their electricity bill was actually more
Right.
than their fuel bill, but they were really
I'm not
focused
sure
on
California is the right comparison
on
for
going green, right? Well,
prices, but.
it's one of the ones that I know for sure. The other one that I can check in with, and I'll be seeing him tomorrow, is Dwight Brashear with Wilsonville. Smart.
Okay, that's a
I
better
have a question
representation.
for Jennifer. What happens if we hang on to them and the grant closes and then we can't use them and try to sell them?
We're not gonna hang on that long.
I was
That's
gonna say, you
not an
probably wouldn't be able to find anybody to take them at that point in time.
I still.
Do you know what
The idea
RBTD,
that
what
somebody's
timeframe
interested.
they're
I'll talk to him
interested?
tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
I have the OTA meeting tomorrow and the Joint Transportation Committee meeting in Albany, the road show. So that's where I'll be tomorrow, but all of those key players are gonna be there. Yeah.
Possible to, when you have time, no, worry, just to understand the 17 vehicles that you have, what's their end of life dates?
Oh, sure. We actually have a list that
Okay.
I could provide to you relatively easy.
And you can just, I could just play around with that. Think about how bad is the problem, how soon are we going to be in real trouble?
It, yeah, it's enough that it gives you that moment when anybody talks about not having a grant to replace a vehicle.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah,
you know, it's not the optimal choice. It's the money that was available. And that's kind of what we are bound to, you know, with these grants is what can you apply for?
Right.
You know, and so, and honestly, we did not think that we would get the grant,
Mhm.
you know. Roseburg get a low-no grant from the federal government. Yeah, right. And people, when I told them, oh yeah, I got a low-no grant, they're like, what? You got a low-no grant? Yeah, we did. Yeah, so, you know, there's a lot of potential with this grant, and you know.
the good side though is that, I mean, you touched on it, the low electric rates in the state
Yeah,
Yeah,
really make that a good
a little bit more
proposition.
desirable.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
9 cents a kilowatt hour
Yeah,
versus, people down in California tell me they're paying 40 cents a kilowatt hour. or
It's
something.
crazy.
it is insane.
well, so the other piece is the project as we were, so I worked with IE Engineering and talking through, you know, what kind of a building, you know,
Mhm.
is gonna be most functional, you know, what's gonna work well for,
Yeah.
if we have preventive maintenance on site, you know,
Mhm.
what's gonna make it good for the folks that are working for us doing that work, you know? We talked about radiant heat floors that actually utilize
Mhm.
the oil from the, you know, the waste oil from
Mhm.
vehicles to run the I want to say incinerator, but that's not quite right. But to, you know, to generate that heat for the floors in the shop, you know.
Yeah,
But also putting the solar panels on all of the buildings as they go up, the
Mhm.
covered parking for the regular buses and the covered parking for the electric buses, which would be separate parking so that they couldn't somehow take the whole fleet up in flames. And the, you know, so, you know, just looking at things that are gonna offset those costs so that we don't have a huge increase in costs that we can't cover, you know,
right,
so.
right. And so for me, it's less about the administration and more about the bottom line of cost. And so,
Mhm.
you know, if we already own these, I think it's a bit premature to sell them. But I would like to know what RBTD's time schedule is, so that we know, like, if there is something that's a bit more pressing.
Yep, and I'll chat with Julie a little bit tomorrow.
That'd be great.
And I'll chat with Dwight about the cost that they're seeing on their electric bills as well.
Now, one of the things about the grant was they restricted our inventory of the DEF filters.
Oh.
So would ordering DEF filters improve the maintenance situation?
So what the maintenance provider did is one of the ones that we replaced. He went ahead and purchased that. And so he had it baked so that it was clean and ready to go. He keeps that one on the shelf, and when we have to do that, instead of us being out of a bus for 2 to 3 weeks or however long it takes to get that process complete, he can put the one that's on the shelf in and then take the one out of the bus and have that process done at.
So we constantly have one ready.
Yes, just one.
Just one, yeah.
The one's
Nice
better
to
than
have a few
none.
More.
Yeah.
Now, how often does that process have to happen?
Well, Randy is gonna be a better, he'll have better numbers on that. No, he dropped off. But it's happening more and more often. And we can run a report and figure out what that is. But yeah,
Cause that would improve it's a Band-Aid, but
Right.
Yeah.
it would improve
Right.
the situation for now.
yeah. And
Stabilize a little bit.
well, and so something else I was looking into is, I believe it's DEQ has grants available sometimes to replace the entire diesel engine and DEF system of the older diesels with DEF.
Mhm.
Lots of times though, if you replace the engine, you also need to replace the transmission.
Exactly.
So, if we applied for a grant like that, we would have to be prepared for we want to do the whole thing. So that we're not gonna put the engine in and then,
All right.
destroy the transmission and then, So, that's something that's been on my radar for a while, but there again, you have to have the match money to move forward. So, and that's optimal because the internationals, they're, they're still in decent shape other than, the engine and the DEF system.
All right.
Small thing.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion on the charging stations? Let's move on to 9.1 stick project updates.
So I actually don't have this update for you, but the project that we're working on is, so that we identified that the financial challenge was primarily due to the 20% plus up on each one of the plans that we have implemented for the last 3 plans. And rolling that anticipated money forward. We rolled the amount for the full plan forward instead of for the actual what we received. So that's what created this. We thought we had more money than we did. So the piece that we still need to identify, that Sherry and I need to have identified sooner than later and presented to you no later than the next board meeting, is there was STF funding that was identified in the STIF plan as part of the funding for several projects, and I believe that came to like 120,000, was it? Something like that. So there's
STF.
STF.
Yeah, we don't. have
But then by the time that the plan went into effect, that STF funding had already been spent in that interim or possibly before, and I wasn't aware. But it was spent before our plan went into effect.
Got it.
So, there's some challenge there, because we need to, adjust where we are with each one of these projects accordingly. So then the other piece is that 20% plus up, the difference between what we thought we had to roll forward and what we actually had to roll forward was rolled forward. We have to reduce, we're a year in, we still have to reduce those projects by 20%, but now it's probably a higher number. So that's our next big I don't even know what you would call it, undertaking. Yeah, yeah. Because it's entirely possible that when we have these numbers, that we're gonna have to look at more cuts. Yeah, that's, hopefully that's not where we're gonna go, because there are, I think, two projects that are, were projects for capital reserve, which was supposed to be the money for the match and stuff like that, so we're still supposed to be putting that money that's designated for those projects into reserve. But at what point might we have to look at, so in the STIF plan, you cannot take capital to spend for operations. So how do we navigate this? And I noticed that one of the recommendations that RLS had was something that we had visited in the October-November timeframe, which was the possibility of a line of credit. Not to use just to keep operations going, but to offset those times when you might have a gap between when the funds are expended and when the reimbursement gets there, because it's a cash flow issue, is how they put it. So as long as we have this cash flow issue, we might want to revisit the line of credit piece. But we might want to, instead of looking through Umpqua Bank to do it, look at the possibility of Infrastructure Bank if we get our findings resolved and are actually able to do that. So, all things for food for thought and things to look at as we move forward. Because really, David put it multiple times today. We want to keep the system running. We want to make sure that the people are still able to get their rides, that the people are still able to catch the bus, that we're able to keep the system running. So this is the next step, and that is the STIF project update on how much do we really have. And like Sherry said, the number was concerning. When I see it come through in an email, and my first thought is, wait, that can't be right. That's, because I'm not the one doing the numbers anymore, so yeah, it was a big difference between what we anticipated and what we received. Yeah. So that's all I got to say about that.
All right, let's see, action plan updates.
Well, we kind of did that in the action plan.
General manager, do you?
So I didn't actually put a report together.
I'm missing something.
Yeah, no. There were just a number of things. It was, do you do the special meeting minutes and insert them in the package or packet when you realize that you didn't do them yet? Or do you do a general manager's report? And so I figured you guys would probably prefer to have the minutes, and that way I don't have to worry about doing them later. A couple of neat things going on though. We have done a partnership with Thrive Umpqua and Umpqua Valley Arts Association, and there was, and the kids, they put out a contest for the kids to design a shelter cover You know, so as you go down Harvard, you'll see that there's one at the credit union, there's one at the art center, there's one at the old DHS building, and down at the last one down there at the shopping center.
Across from Rice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so those are the 4 that got put into place last year. And so today I actually got to go and look at the submissions for the ones for this year. And they were just really good, you know? So and this is a deal where we split the cost with Thrive Umpqua.
Okay.
And so they pay for half the vinyl, we pay for half the vinyl, and the sign shop, Brad and John, they have pretty much donated their time to put them on. And so we actually chose 5 of the projects this time. 2 of them are just the back, and we're gonna put it on the inside of the shelter so that you can still see it from the street. So we'll put it on the inside and the outside so that you see the same picture regardless of whether you're in or out of the shelter. But it's just the back of the shelter, which allows for the drivers to still be able to see into the shelter as they approach. And then we're gonna do the 2 library stops, the employment department and the Madrone Street there at the end of the bridge by the high school. And there's one more. Yikes.
One across the street from the old Rotary outlet, that one? Or Stewart Parkway,
That one's already done.
one Harvard,
Yeah.
near Stewart Parkway, by Evergreen.
Son of a gun. Well, we're gonna do 5 of them. And they're gonna do like a ribbon cutting ceremony for the 2. So there were only 2 artists that submitted their stuff. We're gonna put one artist on one side of the library and the other one on the other. And that way we can do the ribbon cutting ceremony and get them both, you know, their picture in the paper, all that good stuff. And then have the reception for it there at the library.
And do we know who the artists are?
One of them is, I want to say Samantha Ekman, but I think it's a different name. It's Mr. Ekman's daughter. I only know who she is because she used to run cross country when Destiny was still doing that kind of stuff. And she would run with them, but she wasn't old enough, you know. So she's all grown up now. She's in high school. And I cannot remember the other name. It was not a familiar name. So, yeah, but I'll get that information for you. And it should be in September when we do the ribbon cutting. So, yeah.
I noticed the art at the art center. As I was
Yes.
driven by, but I also noticed that all the people waiting for the bus were not in the shelter. They were under the trees because it was too hot.
Too hot.
It was that hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so
Yeah.
hot. They were under the trees. I
Yeah.
felt bad. I was like, oh man, they're all standing under the trees. Oh man. Oh well.
If all the shelters could be like the one by Costco, where they're like
Yeah.
under the trees. that would be-
Right.
Yeah.
Their
That's
shelters
the
are
one going.
hot.
It's a new requirement.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they're more like for winter and rainy and stuff.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So,
They're looking at, just a NODOT thing, we're looking at potentially having a new shelter at on 136 in Sullivan, the one
Oh.
over by there.
uh-huh.
So there's a development coming in that has to put in some sidewalk and do all that, so we're having.
Down there by
Stop
the
there.
Dakota.
Over by the gas station,
Yeah.
that's there on the
Okay.
west side, southwest side.
That'd be awesome.
Where the stop signs are going,
The way,
where the stoplight is going.
between there. Between there and there, yeah, there's a stop, I think you said in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a Maverick. That's coming in there, so
Sweet.
they're trying to come in there, they're trying to squeeze themselves in.
Yeah,
Can't
so,
believe all the obstacles we've thrown up and
right,
things that they have to address and and they didn't walk away. Cause it's really tight to put a truck in.
Yeah, I was
ridership,
there.
ridership numbers, are the other piece of the report. And, if you take a look at that, you can see what seems to be an instantaneous effect from our changes.
Price change. Now it is higher than last year at this time.
Yes. Yeah, so on the fixed route, it is definitely higher, but you see there's about a 750 ride drop over the May numbers, and there is usually a fluctuation. So hopefully that will pick back up.
Is it because of school, better weather, you can walk like?
I'm not sure what
You are.
drives
Friends
it,
will pick you
yeah.
up.
Don't fit in the shelter. There's no shelter, grocery carts are really
I
hot.
think
and
the
it's-
school's out, people aren't needing to go places as much, or they're just walking or. whatever.
Yeah, well, and when you think about it, if you have one passenger that is riding twice a day, 220 service days a year, that's 440 rides right there.
Yeah.
And when you have several kids from the high school that are
Yeah.
riding, and
Their child's truck.
the summer semester at the college is not as heavily tracked as the rest, so. Yeah, there's some just natural fluctuations with the seasons, but I'm hoping this isn't indicative of from our price changes. And
Okay.
I got the biggest kick out of talking to Cindy.
Because I was taking pictures of the.
Yes.
Thing.
We didn't get the change for July updated. We updated the June increase in price, but then we didn't the
July.
July
Yeah.
decrease.
I was gonna send
Yeah.
you the picture, but she poked her head out, and so I was like.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. She says, "So I'm not sure who she was, but
I told you who I was.
she's a board member, and I know that she's one of these businesses down here, and dial right." I'm like, "Natasha." She goes, "Yeah." So, yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, well, I
We
was
need to get it
trying
that
to, so in full disclosure, I couldn't remember what the increase and decreases were. I was like, I know we voted something, but I don't remember what it was. I was taking a picture and asked.
What you do is you bring it way up and then just roll through
Yeah.
it, you drop them
You
down,
drop
but
'em.
it looks like you had a price decrease when actually you had an increase. and-
Well,
Oh, that
yeah,
was-
so I was trying to give Michelle at CLCM a heads up as to whether or not the bus,
Oh,
the passes changed or not, cause you have to go into Express and change the system and blah, blah, blah. And so I was taking a picture to say, no, it didn't change, so you can leave them as is.
Yeah.
But yeah, she caught me. So
No,
she
just
poked
the
her head out
dialogue
and
one.
was like, what you doing? Actually, she said, do you have questions about what this is posted? And I was like, no, not exactly.
I can tell you that even with the decrease in ridership, we still have a 5,000 K increase in.
Beautiful.
Fair bucks, that's awesome.
Beautiful.
From
Yeah.
May to June, so.
It's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. Piece by piece, we'll get there. Yeah. All right.
All right, Jennifer. ODOT update.
Hello, we are just opened up the stiff discretionary grant funds. Depending on your guys' audit will depend on whether or not you'll be able to apply for that one. And then later this month, or early next month, I think it is later this month, we are going to be opening up the formula grant, so the 5310 and 5311. And then in August, the stiff formula fund solicitation will open. We are doing some trainings in the month towards the latter part of July, and then also in August for these grant funds. And then there'll be more information also at the conference at Seaside, which is in October on the 27th through the 30th. And so there will be great classes to take there. David is actually going to be doing a class as well. And I am doing my quarterly transit provider meeting, and that's for transit providers, but board members are welcome to come as well. We're going to be having that at RVTD's administration building. It's the new building that they've completed. They are going to be giving a kind of a presentation on the steps that they had to take to get their building into place. So kind of going over the NEPA and some of the pitfalls and things that they've had. And then Melissa Metz, who is with CCAT over in Coos Bay. They've been doing some amazing things with their marketing. They hired a summer intern from the high school, and he is doing a ton of stuff on their Facebook and also teaching their actual marketing person how to do some of the postings and some of the video and things like that. So she's going to talk about that, and then we're going to introduce all of our new employees so folks know who they are. The date is the 31st, and we usually go from 9 until about 2:30ish. Hopefully by then, RVTD will also have their training, their mobility training center open, which is at their Front Street station. And then they'll also take us on a tour of that as well. So that's all I have. But David said he did have one more item.
Hello, everyone. I actually have like 3 or 4. So the first one is that training that you mentioned. It's not technically my training. I'll be presenting for my boss, who unfortunately is going to be in Italy at the time.
Oh, what a bummer.
Everybody makes sad sounds for just how bad.
Aw.
Yeah, so but I'll be giving a presentation on his behalf. In other news, that's just anecdotal. In other news, so at the very beginning of the meeting, I didn't quite catch exactly what was going on, but so there was some discussion about Reedsport, Sunrise, and DRTF. So I just want to make sure that the board is aware. Now, before I say this, I just want to say we're going to be dealing with this soon, but so there are no contracts with Reedsport, Sunrise, and DRTF. The last contract for Reedsport expired in March of 2022. So there's not really any agreements that are active in there. I don't quite know yet what is going on with Sunrise and DRTF, but the last I can pin down is maybe the last one's expired in June of 2023. But I'm still waiting on actual signed contracts that state when they ended. So we're waiting for those. This is going to be part of a standard compliance review that's actually going to be happening at the end of August. So at the end of August, RLS is going to be coming out. I'll be coming back down there, and we're going to go through kind of the rest of what would be in a normal compliance review down there for UPTD. So I just kind of wanted to make sure the board was aware of that, because it sounded like some decisions were being made on those 3 like subrecipients, and just be kind of aware over the next month and a half or so until RLS and myself are able to get down there and kind of figure out what is happening and how to navigate our way through that, just to be a little bit cautious. So there's that. And the only last thing I have is I think Jennifer and I have been having some trouble finding past board meetings on YouTube. So there's so the meetings are all recorded, but we've been trying to go back until like, I don't know, it was like July of last year or something like that might be the last one that we were able to find. I've been cruising around trying to see like alternate channels, or maybe I'm just like missing them, but I still haven't quite pinned down exactly where they are online. That would be nice for us to have, so that we could reference that, kind of like a history of what has been going on. And I believe that's also part of the board bylaws, I believe, is that those the recordings be posted for the public on YouTube. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. That's something that we're kind of looking to would like to see again. And I know that that's the technological part of that can be sometimes a little bit tricky. But just kind of something to keep in the back of your minds there, that we would really like to be able to see the recordings being posted to YouTube again whenever possible. And that's all I've got, unless anybody has any questions for me.
I will get you the link to that, and I believe we're posted up through March.
Okay.
And then, I just kind of I got behind with the 369 board meetings in March, April, and May. So I'll get caught up on that. I have a couple of them ready to go, but I was going to try to upload them in order. So I have a couple in between that I need to get to, but working on
Yeah,
that.
I think it might be just a problem of I'm going to the wrong one. So yeah, if you could send me a link to that, that'd be great, because I think I keep getting directed to like the old one that has all the videos up until like mid last year. And I know you said that you'd kind of restarted them again on a slightly different channel, but I'm just for some
Yes.
reason having trouble getting to that new channel. So a link would be
Okay.
fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Okay, anything else, Jennifer? And,
Nope.
okay, anything for NOA?
Okay.
I do. Only one thing, and it's really minor. I don't know, when you ask for the paper to post it twice, they put twice in one paper
For what?
for advertising, for whatever in the. It was for our.
The
For this-
open positions.
So one of them was already running for
Yeah.
the one position that was 2 years. And then the other one was for the 2 positions that were 1 year each.
Right.
So,
Okay, well, the way I read it was, it was the same thing twice, so, but, you know, maybe I'm just.
I'll go in and I have the affidavit, so I'll go in and take a look at that. Yeah,
But, you know,
yeah.
maybe when you say there's 2 different ones, not twice in the same paper.
Yeah. All right.
Anybody online have anything for public comment? Okay, agenda build.
So at some meeting, there was an addendum that was written that was possibly misinterpreted. Can we bring that addendum back up to be,
I think you're talking about the executive committee policies.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
Yeah,
would like
we're
to
gonna-
bring that
we're gonna
to,
talk about that here, but.
oh, well then never mind.
okay.
That's all I got.
And I think we had some stuff on, we did have a bylaw thing, I don't know where it was now, but.
Oh, no, we opted to not do anything to the bylaws
Oh,
last
okay.
time. Give it a rest was the.
Okay,
So we have all business, new business, financial report, consent agenda. Julie,
project updates.
oh yeah, you'll actually get some. So do we have anything for new business for next time?
Just for the agenda build. Can we see that report of where the vehicles are at in their life cycle?
Mhm.
Is it getting, is it taking less time to get a bus built now when you order?
Uh,
Still out, multiple years.
Oh,
it's at least a year. Yeah.
Now is that for electric
Anything?
or for any of them?
anything.
Any of them,
Any
yeah.
of them.
Well, it depends on the manufacturer for the electric. If you get your order in for what was Proterra, but is now Phoenix Motor Cars.
Mhm.
Those, from the date that you get in line to the date that it's built is right about a year. For the Gilligs, it's 2 years from the date that you put the order in until the date that you receive it for the electric ones. They were trying to get some different electric ones, smaller electric ones on the price agreement, but the feasibility of us trying to run electric buses for the length of our routes is just,
It's not real.
yeah. And the only route that is really feasible to put an electric bus on at this time would be the
In
Roseburg
city.
route. Yeah,
I think it's a bad look if our buses are on the side of the freeway.
I think so too. On the tow truck,
I
yes.
feel like that's a bad.
And it's the same for diesel bus?
The diesels are about the same, yeah. The last, 3 diesels that we got, took over 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know, but we were also in a supply chain crisis, I think.
Yeah.
I've seen the pictures of Ford having yards and yards of buses waiting on chips.
Right, so with that, part of the problem also is that, Forest River, so there's Berkshire Hathaway,
Mhm.
but all of the bus manufacturers.
Oh,
So there's, even though they have different names still, because there's
Right.
the parent company, it's a monopoly.
Yep.
And, you know, it's the same bus at the end of this assembly line, they put a different name on it.
Yep.
You know, it's so. That's part of the problem, and then part of the problem is that they're diverting chassis to build the smaller motorhomes. Cause it's the same size
Mm.
chassis and they can get more money, you know, more bang
Yeah.
for the buck for the motorhome.
Legit.
Yeah, so, you know, there's a lot of different things at play. Yeah. When I got the email from one of our bus manufacturers telling me that we could get electric vans, they were there, they were ready to go. All we had to do is customize them and get them on the road. And, you know, they said they literally had hundreds of them while we were still waiting for vans that we had ordered 2 years ago. So they've got hundreds of EVs that they diverted chassis for, and we sat and waited. So, yeah, now we have ours, we have our gas ones and a couple of hybrids.
All right, well, let's see, it's 7:41, so, we're gonna go into executive session here in a moment, so maybe we take a 5-minute break and come back at 7:46. And we'll start, we'll be meeting in executive session under ORS 192-6602I to review and evaluate the performance of an officer, employee, or staff member. And are we doing the real estate thing at all? Cheryl?
Sorry.
Are we doing the real property, anything?
Oh, no,
Okay,
no progress
so
there.
just under that, so I don't know how long it'll be, we'll come back out and make a motion after that.
Okay.